Hey everyone, and welcome to my female synergy guide, where I will be explaining what the female synergy is and how it works, as well as how you can improve it. At the beginner friendly level, in this guide I will cover basically the skins that you need, both castle marching skin, advisors and dragon skills, as well as the commanders that you can use, what setups might be good for you, and a little bit about the weapons, as in what weapons would improve the setup the most. To start off, we will need to head to the Commander tab to be able to find the in-game recommendations and see what the game recommends us. If we go to the bottom left corner, then we have this list with multiple different guides, but we only need this one right here with the female commander lineup. And we should be able to see everything that the game goes from starting recommendations, which is basically low spender or like free to play, to hot recommendations, and ultimately the most expensive lineup over here at the top. And as you can see, and how the name suggests, every single commander here is a female commander. And that all begins because of Layla Mormont. Basically, when you get her gold and unlock her 4-star ability, you get her awakening skill, which basically just allows female commanders to proc their active army skills multiple times. And basically what the active skills imply is that she works best with commanders that have active army skills, and she does not work with commanders from the Blitz synergy that enable it, like Rhea and Sinara are no-go, but she can be mixed with the weakness commanders, and that's then called a hybrid formation, which I'm gonna talk about later in the video. We also have some other female commanders that don't necessarily boost your synergy through active army skills, but having more female commanders helps Layla, and they can be used as stats boosters, basically. Despite them not increasing your active army skills damage output, which you rely upon in order to defeat your opponent. And basically everything that can increase your chance at proccing, reduces cooldown, or makes the commanders proc, like Salma is right here, for example. That is really valuable for this synergy. That awakening skill alone makes her one of the best commanders to use in this synergy as a whole, not even for low spenders or even at like one of the highest levels of the game. The only exception is when you have Kasana already, and then Salma cannot be used at the same time. Her awakening skill basically just makes everything snowball really well, especially if you have a commander like Senel in your lineup already. But even though she has a high chance to proc your active army skills at second one, she also has a 30% chance of missing the enemies in the first 5 seconds with normal attacks. Okay, so basically Layla and Salma are the two most essential commanders that you need in your synergy at all times. As you can see, they are also being recommended by the game in every single category except the very top, where you have Brienne and Kasana. Brienne is essentially the same as Layla, except the first stats that you get for her are exactly the Layla with a 4-star weapon and an additional 20% chance at a critical hit. So she does the same as Layla, but better. Whereas for Kasana, she is not the exact same as Salma. She instead doesn't make you proc at second one. She makes that impossible, so you cannot use Kasana and Salma in the same lineup. She also increases damage against spears from her stats here, which is really good if you are playing Cav, and I also suggest playing Cav. She also decreases the cooldown for the army active skills, which is really good. Now that I explained what Kasana does, what Brienne does, Salma and Layla, let's get into the other commanders. As you can see, we also have pretty often Arya here. She is a very good commander to have, because, like, for free to play at least. She works in every troop type, and her awakening skill is really nice. What it does is basically she marks one lineup that then increases her skill damage to that target, and with her weapon she has a chance to reroute 35% of enemy troops if they are disarmed, which basically makes her synergize with the female commanders that have disarm. What disarmed means is that normal attacks will miss their targets, which is amazing against bleed, as they rely on normal attacks for the most part, but does not work against weakness attacks. What this means is basically that in a formation with Jaime or a Grey Worm that has a commander with a healing ability, disarm will not work. This makes commanders like Daenerys, Uma and Marjorie less effective against weakness attacks, but better against normal attacks. But let's look at what Marjorie does more closely. She basically relays on inflicting disarmed status on one random enemy male commander, which also makes her not be a good option against the mid-spender bleed lineup, only for against the Jaqen and Vorian at the higher spending brackets. So unless you're facing against someone that has the best bleed lineup, she's not a good option in my opinion. And there is Uma right here, who also has disarm, and she works really well together with Arya in my opinion. But as she spears and the synergy is mostly Cavs oriented, it's gonna be tougher down the road as you spend more and more into the game to have a place for Uma and like spear commanders in general, as the main commanders for the synergy are cavalry. What Uma does is basically just inflicting disarm on the lineups that have a death marker on them. Overall, I would say the recommended setup for spears is pretty good at a lower spender bracket, but it's not necessarily the best option out there. For infantry recommendations, you have Andrea and Haley. Andrea is a stat booster for the synergy because you are lacking the stats if you play this setup, and Haley reduces the incoming damage from the enemy troops. Overall, it's also not the best option out there. Personally, I would prefer a bleed formation for infantry and a weakness formation for spearmen. I would stick to cavalry if I am to play female. Moving on to the cav lineup that's been recommended, we have Lena and Jane. Lena is just a stat booster, whilst Jane is just there to increase the chance of having Layla procced, as her awakening skill does not give anything else other than stats that you get passively as well. I mean, she gives a bit of cavalry defense, but that is the extent of it. Moving up, we have Daenerys here, and in my opinion she's an amazing commander to get, especially that now she's in the recruitment pass. You can get 20 medals for, I believe, 200 BTs, which is great. As before this video, she was a 1000 BT commander only, but what her awakening skill basically does, in combination with Salma, is really nice, because she brings an extra active cast added to her reduced cooldown. She can also put the enemy target under disarm status with 80% chance, which again works great with Arya. So you could basically get Dany and put her in a lineup with Arya, like here recommended, and this is good against like a top tier infantry. Then up next we have Annie. She can wipe out 3% of current deployed troops from the enemy, but they cannot exceed 3% of Annie's currently deployed troops. So it's not much, but if you can proc it many times, then there is a chance for it to be good. Similarly to Annie, I would say, is then Cersei with her Awakening skill that has a 20% chance of casting Wildfire that deals 20% damage to all enemies. So all enemy lineups. You can have, for example, 4 different troop types all get hit by this at a 20% damage coefficient. And the normal attacks will also have 20% chance of missing for 4 seconds. Next up we have Senel, which I really like, as she can snowball all of the active army skills that we have early on due to her Awakening skill. So it's each time an ally commander casts 10 active army skills, she purifies her debuffs and increases the skill damage of every female commander by 65%. And you can stack it up 4 times. And this works really well with Salma, because if Salma gives a proc at second 1, then you already have multiple procs for the 10 active army skills already from the very beginning of the battle. And with Daenerys, then you also have a potential 1 extra right at the start. And this is without counting any extra procs from Layla. You can really accelerate this process, making the synergy really come in together really well. Yeah, so we talked about every commander in here. Now let's talk a bit about lineups. Let's go back to the free-to-play to mid-spender bracket. I would personally not recommend to play any spears or infantry with this synergy. It is possible, but it's not as effective as it is with calves, and especially not female only, until you get a setup that looks similarly to this upper one, but instead of Kasana, let's say it's Salma and Layla, then I would not recommend playing fully female. Instead, I would recommend mixing weakness with female and having a lineup similarly to Layla, Salma, and Jaime, Enzo. And then 1 extra commander, like could be Annie, it could be Lena for stats increase, could be Arya as well, or maybe even one of Dany, Senel, Cersei. It really just varies on where your account is and situation. But overall, these are some formations for both Cav, Inf, and Spears that I have seen being used, have used myself, or I can see working for all spending levels. Now let's talk about the skins that you can use. And you have 4 castles, 4 options, and they come at varying costs. One of them is in the recruitment pass, and that's the cheapest one and also the weakest of the 4. It's the Hall of Honor. It gives cavalry commander active army skill damage of 17.5% after being upgraded to the max. It's pretty decent, and if your budget is very low, then I would highly recommend it, as it also gives stats in cavalry, both attack and defense. Then if we go up the cost bracket, we have Sunken City, which gives 30k army size and a bit of total attack. This one is in the monthly wheel, and you can slowly save up for it, and it's also the best option if you use hybrid synergy. Next up we have the Flaming Throne. This one is only in the jackpot. You get 30% all commanders active army skill damage. So this one isn't only for cavalry, but it's also more expensive. It costs, I believe, 1.6 million gold coins in the jackpot event. And if we look at the best skin to get, is 2 million gold coins, and it's the Majestic Holy City. It's better because it also has cavalry versus infantry counter increase and more stats overall for cavalry to increase. whilst reducing the enemy total attack. Then for marching skins, we have 2 of them, and one is in the dice event that gives you 30% cav attack. I recommend this, especially if you use hybrid, as it's pretty cheap to get. You just need to spend a bit in dice events over the months, and then you will end up having it eventually. Whilst the other marching skin is giving all commanders active army skill damage again, 30%, but it's in the jackpot event with 2 million gold coins. Next up, let's move to advisors. And here we have 3 advisors that we really need for the female synergy. The first one is Renly Baratheon. He gives a chance for a critical hit for each army skill of the commander he is added to. What I mean is that if you add an advisor to a commander, he helps that specific commander only with their procs. Then you have Benjen, who increases the army skill damage. This is really good to have on Daenerys, who procs her army skill multiple times and deals damage to the enemy. And what I use alongside him is Roose Bolton, who also does the exact same, but with a lower percentage because of the equality. But basically these are the 3 commanders, advisors that you need. Now to move on onto the dragon skills, we have a few ones that really boost the synergy, and that's follow-up, which is basically every time you use an active army skill, you have a chance to trigger a follow-up attack by the dragon with a 180% damage coefficient. And dragon assist is really good as well. When an allied dragon launches an attack that triggers a follow-up attack, so it works together with a follow-up skill, there is a 40% chance to perform an assist with healing coefficient for the allied lineup. Next up we have Dragon Strong Assault. It increases the army active skill damage by 20, and you can stack it in a rally up to 50, which is really strong. And also the newest dragon skill is also nice to get for a female lineup, as in my opinion it works with this synergy compared to the others, as you have extra damage at the very start of the battle. So if you use Salma and Kasana, then you have a higher chance to deal more damage to the opponent. For the weapons, I was showing you throughout the video on the screen, but I really want to emphasize that Layla's weapon and Salma's weapon are really good to get. And if you go for any weapon, I would highly advise to go for those, as they can improve the synergy greatly. And if you use hybrid formation, then doing archery contest is really nice, as you can get Jaime weapon as well. So you can do both of them at once. But with that said, that's everything about the synergy, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video and got some information out of it. See you next time.